In this video, I'm going to compare the iPhone XR with the iPhone 6. Let's go ahead and get started. The iPhone XR came out in 2018 in September, while the iPhone 6s was released in September of 2015. So around 3 years separates these two when they're released, but now they are older devices here in 2021. Both of these phones are 4G LTE phones. They are not 5G like most phones here in 2021. Price-wise, the iPhone XR can be had used as low as $250. You can get it prepaid for $250, brand new on Cricket. I think that's a very good deal. And if you want this brand new, you can get it from Apple at $500. The iPhone 6s is a very old school phone. You cannot buy it anywhere really unless you get it used. And you can find that phone for less than $100. Overall size of the XR is 5.9 inches tall, 3 inches wide, 0.33 inches thick. The 6S is 5.4 inches tall, 2.6 inches wide, 0.28 inches thick. So a smaller, more compact device is the iPhone 6S. But the iPhone XR, in my opinion, is just the right size. It's nice and big, but not too big where it feels overwhelming. The iPhone XR weighs 6.8 ounces. The 6S weighs 5 ounces. So the iPhone XR weight is kind of hefty. You could feel it in your hand, very substantial. The iPhone 6S, by comparison, feels like a feather. That you really can't feel nothing at all. It just feels so nice and lightweight. For the build quality, the XR has a glass front, glass back aluminum frame. iPhone 6S, glass front, aluminum back, aluminum frame. So both of these are flagship feeling build quality, but the iPhone XR has a glass back. The iPhone 6S has a metal aluminum feel in the back. One big difference between these phones is that the XR supports eSIM, where that means you could activate the phone with service without needing a physical SIM card. And also you could have 2 different phone numbers, 2 different data services at the same time and swap them in and out. It's great for travelers or people that just want options. The 6S only has 1 SIM card to only have 1 phone number or 1 data service. iPhone XR has IP67 dust and water resistance, while the iPhone 6S does not have anything. For the display, the XR has a 6.1-inch liquid retina display versus the iPhone 6S 4.7 IPS LCD. When you translate it to screen to body ratio, you have 79% on the iPhone XR. You have 65% screen to body ratio on the iPhone 6S. That's basically because the 6S has that old school home button, which takes up a bezel at the bottom, and also this still has a bezel on the top. So you're getting less screen on the front on the 6S, while the iPhone XR has that more modern, almost all display on the front because of Face ID. iPhone XR has a resolution of 828 by 1792. iPhone 6S resolution is 750 by 1334. When you break it down, they have exactly the same PPI, which is 326. For the software, the iPhone XR launched with iOS 12, and it currently has iOS 14. The iPhone 6S launched with iOS 9 and currently has the same newest iOS 14 as well. The iPhone XR will still get several years of updates, while the 6S probably will not see iOS 15, so software will not be upgraded on the iPhone 6S. But for the most part, all the apps that you could download from the App Store will work on both of these devices. So at least up to this point, both of these will run pretty much the same as software goes, but going forward, the iPhone XR will get you several more years of real good usability, and more modern apps and everything will still work on it for several years to come. When it comes to regular stock apps, that will probably not change. They will work on both of these devices no matter how old they are, such as FaceTime, iMessage, AirDrop. But more intensive apps will probably not work as well later on, depending on the software. For the chipset, you have the Apple A12 Bionic on the XR, and the iPhone 6S has an Apple A9. So a very big difference in chipsets. The A12 is still very snappy, very fast. It'll be like that for probably a couple more years. The iPhone 6s is kind of showing its age with the chipset. It is going to be a little bit slower, but like I said before, most apps will just be a little bit slower opening up. but performance should still be good. But later on down the line, you will definitely see a slowdown in performance for sure. For the internal storage, the XR starts off at 64 gigs. The iPhone 6s, when it launched, started off at 16 gigabytes. So there's a big difference in storage. You could, if you want a lot of storage and you don't know which iPhone really to get, I mean, the 64 gigs is a great baseline for iPhones nowadays. That's what you start off with now in a modern iPhone is 64 gigs. iPhone 6s, I wouldn't suggest getting a 16 gigabyte model. I would, you could step up maybe to the 32 or 64, but it'll cost you a little bit more. For the RAM, the XR has 3 gigs of RAM. The 6S has 2 gigs of RAM. And that's one of the reasons why the software will stop getting updates. Usually it's because of the RAM. The more RAM usually gets it more years of updates. Now for the camera system, both phones are similar that they both have a 12 megapixel shooter on the back, and they both film video at 4K. Obviously you're getting better quality on the iPhone XR, but not by much. iPhones have always had good camera quality, and you're not really getting any difference really in because both of these phones have a single 12 megapixel shooter in the back, and 4K is very good considering the prices of both of these devices. Selfie shooter, the XR has a 7 megapixel camera. iPhone 6s has a 5 megapixel shooter. You get 1080p resolution on the XR. You get 720p on the 6s. You're gonna get obviously better quality on the selfie with the XR, but the 6s is very respectable. Both of these selfie cameras will be really great for FaceTime. Quality is pretty good. You really can't complain about either of these. Major difference between these is that the XR does not have a headphone jack, while the iPhone 6s does. So that makes a difference if you want to connect a pair of headphones, your mic, or connect it to your car via aux cord to listen to music, unless you have a dongle for the XR, which is a little bit more cumbersome, one more extra thing to have. For wireless connectivity, they both have Bluetooth. You got Bluetooth 5.0 on the XR, 4.2 on the 6S. Both of these versions of Bluetooth will be good enough for most wireless devices, such as your smartwatch, your Apple Watch, your AirPods, your wireless headphones, your smart bands, speakers, stuff like that. Both phones have NFC, and that's mostly used for Apple Pay. Both phones are rocking the classic Lightning port for charging, and for unlocking and security, the XR has Face ID, while the 6S has the more traditional old school fingerprint home button, the Touch ID on the front. Both ways are reliable ways to open up your device. Last but not least is the battery. The XR has a 2,942 milliamp battery. The iPhone 6s has a 1,715 milliamp battery. Big difference here. The iPhone XR, in my opinion, is the best iPhone for battery. It was like the first iPhone that really had a great battery life with the Face ID feature without being those huge Plus models or Max models. The iPhone 6s, the battery was small when it came out, and it's very, very small. Even today in 2021, that battery is like garbage. You can't last like almost half a day. Another bonus for the iPhone XR is that it has fast charging at 15 watts. That means you could charge the phone at 50% in 30 minutes, which is really nice. And it also has wireless charging as well. The iPhone 6s doesn't have any of that stuff, just regular old charging. So it's been really interesting comparing a iPhone XR with the iPhone 6s. Big difference in new versus old. The iPhone XR obviously has that more modern all-screen device, except for the notch on top, which this phone uses Face ID. The iPhone 6s, I mean, for some people they still like the Touch ID, but that's, you still have the bezels on the top and the bottom. But overall, I mean, I wouldn't suggest anybody really getting an iPhone 6s. It's going to stop getting updates. The iPhone XR, in my opinion, has been one of the most iconic, one of the best iPhones ever released, because this one finally was the phone that really gave the iPhone nice battery life without getting to those Plus models. So those were really big. This phone doesn't feel that big in your hand, but it gives you a lot of screen. It has great battery life. It has fast charging. It doesn't have a lot of cameras, but the single camera on the back is very, very nice. The 6S, you could still buy that phone for like less than $100, but I wouldn't use it as a main phone. I would use it as a backup, or as, you know, use it for something else, like a storage, if you get a big storage model, or as a security camera or something like that. But the 10R is an awesome phone. You can get it, like I said, for $250 on prepaid brand new, or you can get it $250 used, or spend $500 and get it brand new at the Apple Store. Well, thanks guys for watching. That's been my comparison. See you in the next one.